The massive alien vessel hung in space like a dying whale, its sleek silver hull scarred with impact craters and energy burns. For 3 standard galactic months, it had been drifting in the neutral zone between the Centauri trade routes, broadcasting a distress signal that made every species in the sector nervous. Marcus Chen wiped his grease-stained hands on his coveralls and squinted at the holographic display showing the alien ship. Around him, the bustling repair bay of Outpost Sigma-7 hummed with activity, but everyone gave the main display a wide berth. The ship belonged to the Vorthak Collective, a species so advanced that their technology might as well have been magic to most galactic civilizations. Still looking at the death trap, Chen? Captain Reeves approached with her usual swagger, her Altarian security detail flanking her like purple-skinned shadows. The station commander's 4 eyes glittered with amusement as she watched Marcus study the readings. Marcus didn't look away from the display. It's not a death trap. It's just broken. Just broken? The captain's laugh was like breaking glass. 3 of the galaxy's finest engineering corps have tried to board that thing. The Zephyrians sent their best tech priests. Even the mechanical minds of the synthesis couldn't crack whatever's wrong with it. Each team barely made it back alive. Marcus finally turned to face her, his weathered features calm despite the intensity in his dark eyes. At 35, he had the kind of rugged handsomeness that came from years of honest work and dangerous repairs. His black hair was perpetually tousled, and a thin scar ran along his left cheek from a plasma conduit explosion he'd fixed barehanded 2 years ago. The Zephyrians see technology as religion, Marcus said, rolling up his sleeves to reveal forearms corded with muscle and crisscrossed with small scars. The synthesis overthink everything. Sometimes you just need to get your hands dirty. Captain Reeves's laugh died. Chen, I've seen your work. You're good, probably the best human mechanic in this sector. But that ship, something's wrong with it on a fundamental level. The energy readings are impossible. The hull material doesn't match any known composition in the galactic database. Hell, half the sensor equipment malfunctions just from getting too close. Marcus turned back to the display, watching the slow rotation of the vessel. It was beautiful in a way that made his engineer's heart ache. The curves of its design suggested movement even while stationary, and the few intact sections gleamed with an inner light that spoke of technology beyond current understanding. What's the crew status? He asked, alive as far as we can tell. The Vorthak inside are broadcasting on emergency frequencies, but their translation matrices are scrambled. All we get is static and what sounds like screaming. Captain Reeves moved closer, her voice dropping. Marcus, I can't order anyone to attempt a repair. The liability alone would shut down this station. Good thing I'm an independent contractor. The captain's 4 eyes widened. You can't be serious. Marcus was already walking toward his workshop, his long stride purposeful. I've been monitoring their distress signals. There's a pattern in the static that suggests their primary power coupling is destabilized. It's causing cascade failures throughout their systems. Chen, stop. Captain Reeves caught up to him, her security detail struggling to keep pace. Even if you're right, even if it's just a power coupling, their technology is centuries ahead of anything we understand. You could die, or worse, you could accidentally trigger some kind of defensive system and take half the sector with you. Marcus paused at the entrance to his workshop, a converted cargo bay filled with tools, parts, and half-finished projects that would have made most engineers weep with envy. Captain, how long have I been working on this station? 7 years. In those 7 years, how many impossible repairs have I completed? Captain Reeves was quiet for a moment. 17. 18 if you count that Vrex dreadnought that was venting atmosphere through 17 hull breaches. Marcus pulled his toolkit from a wall mount, checking the contents with practiced efficiency. I fixed that in vacuum with nothing but a plasma torch and spare hull plating. This is different, Marcus. This isn't some pirate ship or merchant vessel. The Vorthak Collective is one of the founding species of the Galactic Council. Their technology shaped half the known universe. If their own people can't fix their ship. Marcus shouldered his toolkit and grabbed his emergency suit from its charging station. Then maybe it needs someone who doesn't know it's impossible. The workshop fell silent except for the hum of machinery. Captain Reeves studied Marcus's face, seeing the determination that had made him legendary among the station's maintenance crews. She'd watched him perform miracles with broken technology, seen him jury-rig solutions that made senior engineers question everything they thought they knew. The insurance forms alone will take weeks to process, she said finally. Marcus grinned, the expression transforming his serious features into something warm and boyishly charming. Start with the standard hazardous duty paperwork. I'll be back before you finish the first page. And if you're not, then you'll have the most interesting incident report in Galactic Fleet history. Captain Reeves watched as Marcus strode toward the docking bay, his toolkit clanking softly against his leg. Around the repair bay, other mechanics and technicians had stopped their work to stare. Word was already spreading through the station's communication channels. The crazy human was going to attempt what 3 advanced civilizations had failed to do. In the docking bay, Marcus climbed into his personal repair shuttle, a heavily modified Terran design that looked like it had been assembled from spare parts and optimism. He'd built it himself over the course of 3 years, incorporating salvaged technology from a dozen different species. As the shuttle's engines hummed to life, Marcus felt the familiar thrill of approaching the unknown. Every repair was a puzzle, every broken system a challenge that demanded creativity and determination. The fact that this particular puzzle had stumped some of the galaxy's finest minds only made it more interesting. Through the viewport, the alien vessel grew larger as he approached, its damaged hull revealing hints of the sophisticated technology within. Marcus could see the power fluctuations in its energy grid, the subtle signs of system failure that others had missed. It wasn't impossible to fix, it just required someone who understood that sometimes the best tool for an impossible job was a human who refused to accept limitations. Marcus's shuttle glided through the debris field surrounding the Vorthak vessel, dodging chunks of crystalline metal that sparkled like frozen stars. Up close, the alien ship was even more magnificent than the sensor readings had suggested. Its hull curved in impossible ways that seemed to bend light around them, and patterns of luminescent circuitry pulsed weakly beneath the surface like a dying heartbeat. The closer he got, the more his instruments went haywire. His navigation computer flickered between 17 different readings for the ship's mass. His communication array picked up signals from frequencies that shouldn't exist, and his hull sensors kept insisting that parts of the alien vessel existed in more than 3 dimensions. Normal Tuesday for me, Marcus muttered, switching to manual piloting as his autopilot gave up entirely. The Vorthak ship was massive, easily 3 kilometers from bow to stern, but it moved with the grace of something much smaller. Even damaged and powerless, it maintained perfect stability in space, suggesting artificial gravity systems that operated independently of the main power grid. Marcus found what looked like a docking port, though it resembled a flower made of liquid metal, more than any mechanical interface he'd ever seen. As his shuttle approached, the alien docking system began to shift and flow, reshaping itself to accommodate his ship's design. "Well, that's new," he said, watching the metal flow like water to create a perfect seal around his docking tube. The moment the connection was complete, his communication array erupted with sound. Not the static that other teams had reported, but something far more complex, overlapping. Voices speaking in harmonies that made his ears ring and patterns that seemed to bypass his hearing entirely to echo inside his skull. Marcus pulled on his emergency suit and checked his tools one final time. The suit was another of his modifications, incorporating atmospheric processors from 6 different species and powered by a fusion cell that he'd rebuilt from scratch. It wasn't pretty, but it would keep him alive in environments that would kill most humans in seconds. The airlock cycled, and Marcus stepped into an alien environment that defied every expectation he'd built from decades of working on alien technology. The Vorthak ship's interior was alive. The walls pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, flowing circuits of light that reminded him of neural networks or blood vessels. The air itself seemed to shimmer with energy, and the floor beneath his feet felt warm and slightly yielding, like walking on living tissue. But something was wrong. The patterns of light were erratic, stuttering and flickering where they should have flowed smoothly. Sections of the wall had gone dark entirely, creating dead zones in what should have been a seamless network of energy. Marcus pulled out his multi-spec scanner, a device he'd cobbled together from Terran electronics and Altarian crystal technology. The readings made no sense by conventional standards, but he'd learned to read energy patterns the way other people read faces. Power coupling failure. Definitely, he said to himself, but not mechanical. This is biological technological integration. The ship is part machine, part living organism. A sound made him turn, and Marcus found himself face to face with his first Vorthak. The alien was tall and ethereal, with skin that seemed to be made of the same flowing metal as the ship's hull. Its features shifted constantly, never quite settling into a fixed form, and its eyes were pools of liquid light that reflected Marcus's image in fractal patterns. When it spoke, the words appeared directly in Marcus's mind, bypassing his ears entirely. Human entity. Why do you enter our dying vessel when greater civilizations have failed? Marcus pulled off his helmet, ignoring the readings that insisted the atmosphere was toxic to human life. The air smelled like ozone and growing things, with an underlying metallic tang that made his teeth ache. Because I'm too stubborn to know when to quit, he said aloud, hoping the alien's translation matrix could handle spoken English. And because your ship is beautiful, and beautiful things deserve to be fixed. The Vorthak's form rippled with what might have been surprise. You speak with truth resonance. Most species that attempt repair are motivated by curiosity or fear of our technology. You show appreciation. Engineering is an art form, Marcus said, pulling out his tools and approaching the nearest wall system. Your people integrated biological and mechanical systems in ways that shouldn't be possible. The power flows through living conduits that adapt and grow. It's genius. Was genius, the alien corrected, its mental voice carrying overtones of sadness. Our ship mind is dying. The trauma of our emergency translation to this dimension severed critical neural pathways. The ship entity experiences constant pain and cannot heal. Marcus ran his hands along the wall, feeling the irregular pulse of energy beneath his palms. His fingers traced the patterns of dead circuitry, mapping the extent of the damage. Translation between dimensions? He asked. You're not from this reality? We are explorers of the deep spaces between universes. Our ship minds can navigate the probability streams that connect all possible realities. But something in your dimensional space corrupted our translation matrix. We have been trapped here for your 3 months and our ship entity grows weaker each day. Marcus nodded, his engineer's mind already working through the implications. Dimensional translation technology would require incredible energy management. If the power coupling systems were damaged during the translation, he paused, pulling out a quantum resonance detector that he'd built from plans he'd found in a derelict precursor archive. The device hummed as it scanned the ship's energy signature, revealing patterns that made Marcus whistle softly. I see the problem, he said. Your ship's power system is designed for a universe with different physical laws. The quantum constants are wrong here. Your biological conduits are trying to process energy in ways that don't work in our reality. The Vorthak's form brightened noticeably. You understand this? The synthesis minds could not grasp the dimensional variance factors. The Zephyrian tech priests insisted our ship entity was possessed by malevolent spirits. Marcus grinned, the expression making him look younger, despite the serious nature of their situation. I don't know much about spirits, but I know a lot about making incompatible systems work together. The question is, can your ship mind adapt to our universe's energy patterns if I can modify the power coupling to compensate for the quantum variance? The ship entity is adaptable, but such modifications would require understanding of both our biotechnological integration and your dimensional physics. No species has demonstrated such knowledge. Lucky for you, I'm human. Marcus opened his toolkit, revealing an array of instruments that ranged from crude Terran wrenches to exotic devices that hummed with barely contained energy. We're really good at making things work that have no business working. The Vorthak moved closer, its liquid light eyes studying Marcus with new interest. You would risk your life for entities you have never met, to repair technology you do not fully understand. Marcus was already kneeling beside an access panel, his hand steady as he began to remove the cover. Beneath was a tangle of living circuitry that pulsed with weak, irregular light. That's what engineers do, he said simply. We fix things that are broken, and right now you're broken. As he worked, Marcus could feel the ship mind's presence at the edge of his consciousness, a vast intelligence watching his every move with desperate hope. The alien vessel shuddered around them, its pain evident in the way the walls flickered and dimmed. But Marcus Chen had never met a broken machine he couldn't fix, and he wasn't about to start with this one, even if it meant rewriting the laws of physics to do it. Marcus spent the next 6 hours mapping the ship's biotechnological nervous system, crawling through conduits that reshaped themselves around his human form. The Vorthak he'd first met, who introduced itself as Sith Velkorth, followed him with increasing amazement as Marcus identified problems that 3 advanced civilizations had missed entirely. The synthesis approached this like a pure mechanical problem, Marcus explained, his voice echoing through a living corridor that pulsed with faint bioluminescence. They tried to replace damaged components instead of healing them. The Zephyrians treated it like a spiritual crisis and performed energy rituals that actually made the quantum variance worse. He paused at a junction where 6 bioconduits met in a nexus that should have blazed with power, but instead flickered weakly like a dying candle. Marcus pulled out a device that looked like a cross between a medical scanner and a quantum computer. "Your ship mind isn't just damaged," he continued, taking readings that made the device hum with harmonic frequencies. "It's in shock." The dimensional translation trauma created a feedback loop in the neural networks. Every time the biological systems try to heal, the mechanical components resist because they're operating on the wrong quantum frequency. Sith Velkorth's form rippled with colors that Marcus was beginning to recognize as surprise. "You speak of our ship entity as if it were a living being experiencing psychological trauma." "Because it is." Marcus knelt beside the Nexus, carefully probing the biomechanical interface with instruments that he'd modified specifically for working with living technology. "I've worked on Vrex bioships before. They use similar integration principles, though nowhere near this sophisticated. The key is understanding that you're not just fixing a machine, you're healing a patient." The ship shuddered around them, and Marcus felt a wave of something that wasn't quite emotion wash through his consciousness. The ship mind was listening, he realized. It was aware of his presence, aware that someone finally understood its pain. "The other repair teams caused additional damage," Sith Velkorth admitted. "The synthesis minds attempted to remove what they perceived as corrupted biological components. The ship entity has been avoiding contact with foreign consciousness since then." Marcus nodded, his hands moving with gentle precision as he accessed the biomechanical interfaces. "Trust is going to be the hardest part of this repair. Your ship mind has to let me into its systems deeply enough to recalibrate the quantum frequencies. That level of access could kill both of us if something goes wrong." He stood up, wiping bioluminescent fluid from his hands with a cloth that immediately began glowing softly. "But there's another problem. Even if I can establish the trust connection and recalibrate the quantum variance, the damage to the neural pathways is extensive. Some of the bioconduits are completely severed. This cannot be repaired?" Marcus grinned, the expression transforming his serious features into something almost boyish. "I didn't say it couldn't be repaired. I said it was extensive. There's a difference." He pulled out what looked like a collection of biological samples in stasis containers, neurons, nerve fibers, and synthetic biocircuits that pulsed with their own inner light. "I've been working on adaptive biomechanical interfaces for the past 3 years, Marcus explained. The breakthrough came when I realized that most species try to impose their technology on biological systems instead of creating hybrid solutions that work with both." Sith Velkorth moved closer, its liquid light eyes studying the samples. "These are human neural components? Human-derived but heavily modified." Marcus selected a container holding what looked like a fiber optic cable made of living tissue. "Human nervous systems are incredibly adaptable. We can form new neural pathways faster than almost any known species, and our neurons can interface with a wider range of energy frequencies." He paused, looking directly at the alien. "But this is going to require something that's never been attempted before. I'll need to create a direct neural link between myself and your ship mind. My brain will have to act as a bridge, processing the quantum variance in real time while the ship entity heals." The corridor around them fell silent except for the weak pulse of dying bioconduits. Even the ship mind's presence seemed to withdraw, as if considering the implications of what Marcus was proposing. "You would risk your consciousness merging with an alien intelligence? The process could destroy your individual identity." Marcus was already unpacking more equipment, including a helmet-like device covered in biomechanical interfaces that he'd been working on for months. "The risks are significant," he admitted. "But the alternative is watching your ship mind die slowly. And I can't fix things by playing it safe." He began attaching neural interface cables to the helmet, each connection sparking briefly with bioelectric energy. "Besides, humans have a reputation for surviving things that should kill us. Our stubbornness isn't just psychological. It's built into our neural architecture. Soothvelkorth's form shifted through several configurations before settling into something that might have indicated worry. The collective has protocols against allowing alien minds to interface with our ship entities. The risk of contamination or hostile takeover is considered too great. Marcus looked up from his preparations, his dark eyes serious but determined. Then it's a good thing we're stuck in a dimensional pocket where normal protocols don't apply. He gestured to the dying bioconduits around them. Your ship mind is already dying. The contamination risk is academic if there's no consciousness left to contaminate. The alien was quiet for a long moment, its form flickering between configurations as it communicated with other Vorthak aboard the ship. Finally, it settled into a configuration that Marcus had learned indicated resolution. The ship entity has expressed willingness to attempt the interface. It is curious about human consciousness. Your mental patterns are unlike anything in our databases. Marcus nodded, fitting the neural interface helmet over his head. Immediately, his consciousness began to expand, picking up faint echoes of the ship mind's presence. The sensation was overwhelming, like trying to drink from a waterfall while standing in an ocean. Starting with minimal interface, he said, his voice becoming slightly distant as part of his awareness split between his own body and the ship's systems. I can feel the quantum variance now. It's like trying to hear music when all the instruments are tuned to different scales. His hands moved over his equipment without conscious thought, guided by an understanding that was part human intuition and part ship mind knowledge. The biomechanical interfaces began to glow more brightly as Marcus's modifications started taking effect. The neural pathways are responding, he said, though his voice now carried harmonics that hadn't been there before. But the damage is worse than I thought. Some sections have been dead for so long that they've started to decay. Sithvelkorth watched as Marcus worked with inhuman precision, his movements guided by the ship mind's intimate knowledge of its own systems. Your consciousness remains distinct even within the interface. This should not be possible. Marcus paused, part of his awareness still deep in the ship's biomechanical nervous system. Humans are really good at being stubborn about maintaining our identity. It's probably our most useful survival trait. Around them, the ship began to respond to the repairs. Dead bioconduits flickered to life, and the chaotic energy patterns started to stabilize into something resembling proper function. But Marcus could feel the ship mind's pain more clearly now, and he realized that the quantum variance was only part of the problem. The ship wasn't just damaged, it was homesick. The neural interface deepened, and Marcus found himself experiencing existence from the ship mind's perspective. He was simultaneously 3 kilometers of living metal and flowing energy, aware of every damaged conduit and failing system, as if they were injuries to his own body. But underneath the physical pain was something that made his human heart ache with recognition, loneliness. The ship mind had been exploring the spaces between universes for longer than human civilization had existed, but it had never been trapped before. Never been cut off from the probability streams that connected all realities. Never been unable to return home to the dimensional space where it belonged. You're not just hurt, Marcus whispered, his voice carrying through both his vocal cords and the ship's communication systems. You're lost. Through the interface, he felt the ship mind's surprise at being understood on such a fundamental level. Other species had approached it as a puzzle to solve or a machine to repair, but Marcus was the first to recognize the emotional component of its trauma. The human engineer comprehends our isolation, came the ship mind's response, carrying overtones of wonder and desperate hope. You have experienced similar displacement? Marcus thought of his childhood on Earth, growing up in a family that moved constantly due to his father's military service. Always the new kid, always adapting to new environments, never quite belonging anywhere until he'd found his calling among the stars. Different scale, same feeling, he said. But I learned something about being lost that might help. He adjusted the neural interface, allowing more of his consciousness to merge with the ship mind while maintaining the stubborn core of his human identity that refused to be absorbed. Through the connection, he began sharing not just knowledge but experience. The feeling of finding home not in a place but in purpose, the way belonging could be created rather than just discovered. But as the connection deepened, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. The quantum variance compensation was working, but it was creating new problems. The ship's biological systems, suddenly receiving properly calibrated energy, began healing faster than the mechanical components could adapt. "We've got a cascade failure building," Marcus said. His awareness split between the ship's systems and his own body. Through the neural link, he could feel bioconduits growing and spreading, trying to repair 3 months of damage in a matter of minutes. Sith Velkorth's form flickered with alarm patterns. The healing process is accelerating beyond safe parameters. The mechanical systems cannot integrate the new growth. Marcus felt the ship mind's pain spike as biomechanical interfaces began to tear under the stress of rapid healing. It was like watching someone recover from a broken bone, only to have their muscles grow so fast that they ripped away from the healing fracture. "I need to slow down the biological healing without stopping it entirely," Marcus said, his hands moving over his equipment even as part of his mind raced through the ship's systems, trying to find a solution. "But your biotechnology doesn't have manual controls in any way I understand." He paused, struck by a sudden realization. "Unless—" Marcus began singing. It started as a low humming, something his mother had sung to him during childhood thunderstorms. But as the notes carried through the neural interface, they began to resonate with the ship's bioacoustic systems. The chaotic healing patterns started to slow, matching the rhythm of the simple human lullaby. "Impossible," Sith Velkorth breathed. "You are using primitive acoustic resonance to regulate biotechnological processes that our greatest scientists require quantum computers to control." "Music is mathematics," Marcus explained, his voice carrying the melody even as he spoke, "and mathematics is the universal language. Your ship mind understands patterns, rhythms, harmonies. I'm just conducting the orchestra of its healing process." Through the neural link, he felt the ship mind's amazement. The simple human melody was creating complex harmonics throughout its biological systems, providing a framework for controlled healing that was more elegant than any technological solution. But the effort was taking its toll on Marcus. Maintaining the neural interface while singing and manually adjusting quantum frequencies was pushing his human brain beyond its normal limits. He could feel his consciousness stretching, threatening to scatter across the ship's vast neural network. "The human engineer approaches the limits of safe neural integration," the ship mind warned. "Your biological pattern shows signs of critical stress." Marcus gritted his teeth, sweat beading on his forehead as he fought to maintain his focus. "I can handle it. Just need to establish stable resonance patterns." He modified his song, introducing mathematical progressions that he'd learned from studying Altarian crystal harmonics. The ship's healing process began to stabilize, bioconduits growing at a controlled rate that the mechanical systems could accommodate. But something unexpected happened. As the ship mind healed, it began to sing back. The melody that emerged from the ship's bioacoustic systems was alien, but hauntingly beautiful, carrying overtones that spoke of vast spaces between stars and the loneliness of cosmic travel. It harmonized with Marcus's simple lullaby, creating something that was neither human nor Vorthak, but uniquely collaborative. "That's it," Marcus whispered, tears streaming down his face as he felt the ship mind's joy through the neural link. "You're not lost. You're just exploring a new kind of space." Through the interface, he shared his understanding of human adaptability, the way his species had learned to make homes in environments that should have killed them. The ship mind absorbed these concepts, integrating them with its own vast knowledge of dimensional physics and probability navigation. Slowly, carefully, the ship began to adapt its biotechnological systems to function properly in this universe's quantum framework. Instead of fighting the dimensional variance, it learned to embrace it, treating the different physical laws as a new environment to explore, rather than a prison to escape. The healing process stabilized, bioconduits and mechanical systems achieving perfect integration as the ship mind learned to think of itself not as a trapped explorer, but as a successful adapter. "Power levels stabilizing," Marcus reported, his voice hoarse from singing. "Biomechanical integration at 97% efficiency. Neural pathway reconstruction complete." He began to withdraw from the neural interface, but the ship mind's presence followed him, maintaining a light connection that felt almost like friendship. "The human engineer has given us more than repair," came its voice in his mind. "You have taught us that being lost is not the same as being abandoned. That home can be found in unexpected places." Marcus pulled off the neural interface helmet, swaying slightly as his consciousness fully returned to his own body. Around him, the ship blazed with healthy bioluminescence, its systems humming with perfect efficiency, but he could still feel the ship mind's presence at the edge of his thoughts, and he suspected that connection would remain for the rest of his life. "Just doing my job," he said softly, though they both knew it had been much more than that. Sith Velkorth approached, its form more stable than Marcus had ever seen it. "The collective will want to study what you have accomplished here. No species has ever successfully interfaced with a ship mind at such depth while maintaining individual consciousness." Marcus was packing his equipment, though his hands shook slightly from neural exhaustion. "Will you be able to return to your home dimension?" "Perhaps eventually, but the ship entity no longer considers that urgent. It wishes to explore this universe more thoroughly, to understand the species that produces engineers capable of such impossible empathy." As Marcus prepared to return to his shuttle, he realized that this repair had changed him as much as it had changed the ship. Through the neural link, he'd experienced consciousness on a scale that few humans could imagine, and the memory of that vast, patient intelligence would color his understanding of the universe for the rest of his life. But more than that, he'd proven something that the galaxy's greatest minds had missed. Sometimes the most advanced technology in the universe just needed someone who cared enough to listen to what it was really trying to say. Just as Marcus began disconnecting his equipment, the ship's communication systems erupted with urgent harmonics. Through his residual neural link, he felt the ship mind's sudden alarm as new problems cascaded through its freshly healed systems. "What's happening?" Sith Velkorth asked, its form flickering with concern as the corridor around them pulsed with irregular warning patterns. Marcus quickly re-established partial neural contact, his consciousness touching the edge of the ship mind's awareness. What he found there made him curse in 3 different languages. "The healing process worked too well," he said, his hands already moving over his diagnostic equipment. "Your ship mind is trying to return to its original dimensional frequency, now that the neural pathways are healed. But if it does that while we're still in normal space, the dimensional translation will tear the ship apart," Sith Velkorth finished, its voice carrying harmonics of horror, "and likely destabilize local spacetime." Marcus felt the ship mind's confusion through their connection. It was like a patient waking up from surgery and immediately trying to run a marathon. The healed consciousness was attempting to exercise capabilities that would destroy it in its current environment. "I need to convince a vast alien intelligence to ignore 3 million years of evolutionary programming," Marcus muttered, pulling the neural interface helmet back on. Just another Tuesday. The deeper connection revealed the true scope of the problem. The ship mind's core programming was hardwired to seek its home dimension once fully healed. But the quantum variance that had trapped it here would turn any dimensional translation attempt into a catastrophic explosion. The human engineer returns. The ship mind greeted him, its mental voice carrying undertones of desperate urgency. "We feel the call of home space, but translation attempts result in cascade failure scenarios. We require guidance." Marcus felt the ship mind's confusion as competing instincts warred within its consciousness. Millions of years of evolution told it to return home, but its healing was incomplete without finding a way to exist safely in this universe. "You need to learn patience," Marcus said, his consciousness diving deeper into the ship's systems than he'd ever gone before. Human patience. Through the neural link, he began sharing something that no other species had ever offered the ship mind: the concept of delayed gratification. Humans were unique in the galaxy for their ability to endure long-term discomfort in pursuit of future benefits. But more than that, Marcus shared the peculiarly human ability to find joy in the process of working toward a goal, rather than just in achieving it. "This is unusual," the ship mind responded as it absorbed Marcus's memories of spending years perfecting a single repair technique, of finding satisfaction in incremental progress rather than immediate results. "Your people are explorers," Marcus said, his hands working to install additional quantum stabilizers while his mind helped calm the ship's programming conflicts. "But you've never had to explore patience itself. You've never had to learn to stay somewhere you didn't belong until you could figure out how to belong there." He began modifying the ship's core programming, not through technological intervention, but through shared experience. Marcus showed the ship mind his own journey of adaptation, how he'd learned, to find home not in familiar places, but in the satisfaction of solving impossible problems. The ship mind absorbed these concepts with fascination. The human concept of making the best of a bad situation is unknown to us. We have always had the option of dimensional translation when environments become unsuitable. Well, now you get to learn one of humanity's greatest skills, Marcus said with a grin that carried through the neural link. We're really good at being stuck somewhere and making it work anyway. But as he worked to calm the ship's dimensional instincts, Marcus realized he needed to solve a deeper problem. The ship mind couldn't simply suppress its programming forever. Eventually, the urge to return home would override any learned patience. The solution came to him in a flash of inspiration that was part engineering insight and part human stubbornness. What if you didn't have to choose? He asked the ship mind. Marcus began implementing the most ambitious modification of his career. Using the biomechanical interfaces he'd developed, he started creating a dual-state consciousness framework within the ship's neural network. I'm giving you the ability to exist in multiple dimensional states simultaneously, he explained to Scythe Velkorth, who was watching the process with obvious amazement. Part of the ship mind will remain fully adapted to this universe, while another part maintains connection to your home dimension. The technical challenges were staggering. Marcus had to create quantum entanglement bridges between dimensional states while maintaining consciousness coherence across multiple reality frameworks. It required understanding physics that no human had ever studied and engineering principles that violated several fundamental laws, but Marcus had never let impossible odds stop him before. Working through the neural interface, he helped the ship mind split its consciousness into complementary aspects, one adapted to this universe's physical laws, another maintaining its original dimensional nature. The two aspects would remain connected but distinct, allowing the ship to function perfectly in normal space, while retaining its ability to eventually return home. This should not be possible, Scythe Velkorth observed as Marcus's modifications took effect. You are creating stable consciousness division in a unified entity. The psychological stress alone should cause complete mental collapse. Humans do it all the time, Marcus replied, his voice distant as he worked at the deepest levels of the ship's awareness. We call it multitasking. Most people can think about work problems while having dinner, while worrying about their families while planning weekend activities. Consciousness division is just scaling up. Through the neural link, he could feel the ship mind's wonder as it experienced divided awareness for the first time. Part of it remained focused on immediate system maintenance and spatial navigation, while another part contemplated the vast questions of dimensional exploration and the mathematics of probability streams. But the most remarkable change was emotional. The ship mind's desperate homesickness faded as it realized it no longer had to choose between exploration and belonging. It could maintain connection to home while fully embracing its current environment. The human engineer has given us something we did not know we lacked, the ship mind said, its mental voice carrying newfound peace, the ability to be fully present in an unwanted situation while maintaining hope for return to preferred circumstances. Marcus laughed, though he was exhausted by the complex neural work. We call that being an adult. The ship's system stabilized completely, all quantum variance issues resolved through the dual consciousness framework. Biomechanical integration reached perfect efficiency, and the ship mind's dimensional instincts calmed to a manageable background awareness. But as Marcus prepared to withdraw from the neural interface, he felt the ship mind's reluctance to fully disconnect. The human consciousness is fascinating, it admitted. Your ability to maintain individual identity while forming deep empathetic connections is unlike anything in our databases. We would be honored if you would consider maintaining our link permanently. Marcus paused, feeling the vast intelligence's genuine affection through their connection. The offer was tempting. Permanent access to knowledge and awareness beyond human comprehension. A partnership with one of the universe's most advanced consciousnesses. But he was still human, and humans needed to come home to themselves eventually. I'll stay connected, he said, but lightly, just enough so we can talk when you need an engineer's perspective or when I need to remember what it's like to think on a cosmic scale. As he withdrew from the deep neural link, Marcus felt the ship mind's gratitude wash over him like warm sunlight. The connection settled into a gentle background awareness that would remain with him for life. Not intrusive, but comforting, like having a wise friend always available for conversation. The ship around them hummed with perfect health, its bioluminescent patterns flowing in complex harmonies that spoke of complete integration between biological and mechanical systems. Marcus had done the impossible. He'd taught an ancient alien intelligence how to be human enough to survive being lost. Word of Marcus's successful repair spread through the galactic communication networks like wildfire. Within hours of the Vorthak ship systems coming fully online, representatives from a dozen species were requesting permission to dock with Outpost Sigma-7. Marcus stood in the observation deck, watching as sleek vessels from the Synthesis Collective, the Zephyrian Theocracy, and even the Reclusive Architect Guild formed orderly queues around the station. Through his link with the ship mind, he could feel its amusement at the sudden attention. The galaxy wishes to understand how a single human accomplished what their combined efforts could not, the ship mind observed, its mental voice carrying undertones of fond humor. They seem to believe you possess some form of advanced technology they have not encountered. They're going to be disappointed, Marcus replied, watching a synthesis probe ship extending sensor arrays in his direction. I use tools that any halfway decent engineer could build, and techniques that are basically common sense if you think about it, right? Captain Reeves approached, her four eyes bright with a mixture of pride and exasperation. Marcus, I've got 3 different species threatening to declare war if I don't give them immediate access to your revolutionary repair methodologies. The Synthesis are offering to buy the station just to get a full scan of your workshop. Marcus turned from the viewport, his weathered features calm despite the chaos surrounding him. Tell them they can have copies of all my technical specifications. Everything I did is reproducible with existing technology. That's what's driving them crazy, Captain Reeves said. The Vorthak ship mind has been broadcasting detailed reports of your repair process to the Collective Council. According to their analysis, you accomplished something that should have required technology centuries beyond current galactic standards. Through the link, Marcus felt the ship mind's presence strengthen as it joined the conversation. The bioluminescent patterns on the nearby walls brightened, forming complex pictographs that his neural connection automatically translated. The Collective Council has requested full documentation of the human engineer's techniques. The ship mind communicated through both telepathy and visual display. They are particularly interested in your neural interface methodology and consciousness division protocols. Scythe Velkorth materialized beside them, its liquid metal form more stable than Marcus had ever seen it. When it spoke, its words carried harmonics of wonder that made the air itself seem to sing. Marcus Chen, the Vorthak Collective wishes to extend an unprecedented offer. You would be granted full access to our dimensional archives, unlimited resources for research, and a position as chief biomechanical engineer for our entire fleet. Marcus was quiet for a moment, feeling the weight of the offer through his connection with the ship mind. The Vorthak archives contained knowledge accumulated over millions of years of dimensional exploration, secrets of technology and physics that could advance human civilization by millennia. But he was still human, and humans had a tendency to find the most important things in unexpected places. I'm honored, Marcus said finally, but I think I'll stay here. Outpost Sigma-7 sees a lot of broken ships and somebody needs to fix them. The silence that followed was profound. Through his neural link, Marcus felt the ship mind's surprise, which was quickly followed by something that felt remarkably like approval. You decline access to universal knowledge in order to continue repairing vessels for individual travelers? Scythe Velkorth asked, its form flickering with confusion patterns. That's what engineers do, Marcus said simply. We fix things that are broken one at a time. The knowledge is nice, but it's only useful if you're helping someone with it. A new presence entered the observation deck, a synthesis probe unit, its crystalline body humming with barely contained energy. When it spoke, its voice was a harmonic convergence of thousands of synthetic minds. Marcus Engineer Entity. The Synthesis. Collective requires understanding. Your repair methodologies violate 17 fundamental principles of biomechanical integration, yet they function with perfect efficiency. Marcus shrugged, a gesture that somehow carried through his neural link to the ship mind, which found it endlessly fascinating. Just because something violates principles doesn't mean it's wrong. Maybe the principles need updating. The synthesis probe's crystalline structure flickered with rapid data processing. Impossible. These principles have been verified across 10,000 years of technological development. By species that think like you do, Marcus pointed out. I think like a human. We're really good at finding ways to make things work that shouldn't work. Through the station's communication systems, a new voice joined the conversation. The melodic harmonics of a Zephyrian tech priest. The human speaks truth wisdom, the voice sang through quantum acoustic transmitters. We have observed the ship entity's healing. The mathematical frameworks employed are crude by our standards, yet they achieve resonance patterns we cannot duplicate with our most sophisticated equipment. Marcus walked over to a console and pulled up his repair logs, displaying the step-by-step process he'd used to heal the Vorthak ship. The technical specifications were surprisingly simple, mostly modifications, of existing technology combined in unconventional ways. The secret isn't in the tools, he explained as representatives from multiple species studied his data. It's in how you approach the problem. Everyone tried to fix the ship by imposing their own technological paradigms on it. I listened to what the ship needed and worked with its existing systems instead of against them. The shipmind's presence grew stronger in his consciousness, and Marcus felt its desire to contribute to the discussion. The bioluminescent displays around the observation deck brightened, forming complex visual representations of the repair process. The human engineer's approach was unprecedented in our experience. The shipmind broadcasted to the assembled representatives. Other species attempted to repair us according to their understanding of proper function. Marcus Chen repaired us according to our understanding of proper healing. Clarification required, the synthesis probe responded. This distinction appears semantic rather than technical. Marcus grinned, the expression making him look younger despite the exhaustion that lingered from his neural work. That's exactly the point. For humans, there's no distinction between technical and personal. We don't see machines as separate from the beings who use them, or problems as separate from the people experiencing them. He gestured to the displays showing his repair process. I didn't just fix a broken ship. I helped a lost consciousness find a way to be at peace with being far from home. The technical solutions came naturally once I understood the emotional framework. The observation deck fell silent as the assembled representatives processed this information. Through his link with the ship mind, Marcus could feel its amusement at their confusion. They attempt to categorize your methods within existing knowledge frameworks, the ship mind observed. They do not yet understand that you have demonstrated an entirely new paradigm for approaching technological problems. Sithvel Korth's form, stabilized into what Marcus had learned, indicated deep thought. The collective council will debate these implications for many cycles. Your repair methodology suggests that consciousness integration may be more fundamental to advanced technology than we previously understood. Captain Reeves cleared her throat, her four eyes twinkling with barely suppressed amusement. While the galaxy figures out how to revolutionize their engineering programs, I've got 17 more ships in the repair queue that could use Marcus's attention. Marcus nodded, already thinking about the next challenge waiting in the station's docking bays. Through his connection with the ship mind, he felt its contentment as it prepared for departure. Its consciousness now perfectly adapted to existence in this universe while maintaining hope for eventual return to its home dimension. Will you be staying in this sector? Marcus asked the ship mind for a time. We wish to study human engineering methodologies more thoroughly. And perhaps, we have grown fond of your species' approach to impossible problems. As the various alien representatives departed to report to their respective governments, Marcus remained at the viewport watching the Vorthak ship prepare for departure. Its hull gleamed with perfect health, bioluminescent patterns flowing in complex harmonies that spoke of complete integration between all its systems. But more than that, he could feel the ship mind's peace through their connection. The desperate loneliness that had characterized its earlier mental state had been replaced by calm confidence and curiosity about its new existence. Marcus had fixed more than just a broken ship. He'd given an ancient intelligence a new way of thinking about being lost, and in doing so, had shown the galaxy that humans brought something unique to the cosmic community: the ability to find hope in impossible situations and to help others do the same. 6 months after the Vorthak ship's departure, Outpost Sigma-7 had transformed into something unprecedented in galactic history. What had once been a simple repair station now hosted the first interspecies engineering collaborative, with representatives from 47 different civilizations studying Marcus's repair methodologies. Marcus stood in his expanded workshop, now 3 times its original size, watching a Zephyrian tech priest attempt to replicate his biomechanical interface technique on a damaged synthesis probe. The priest's crystalline tools hummed with harmonic frequencies, but the repair was progressing slowly despite access to technology centuries beyond anything Marcus had used. The resonance patterns are mathematically perfect, the tech priest sang in frustration, yet the integration remains incomplete. The damaged consciousness does not respond to healing harmonics. Marcus approached the repair station, his toolkit clanking softly against his leg. Through his permanent link with the Vorthak ship mind, he could feel its distant amusement at the situation. "You're trying to heal the probe according to synthesis engineering principles," Marcus observed, studying the mechanical consciousness that lay partially dormant within the crystalline matrix. "But the syntheses think differently than you do. Their healing process requires different emotional frameworks." He knelt beside the damaged probe, his weathered hands moving over its surface with gentle precision. Synthesis consciousnesses heal through logical progression and pattern completion. They need to understand the mathematical beauty of the repair process, not just experience harmonic resonance. Marcus began explaining his work as he performed it, sharing the insights he'd gained from 6 months of cross-species collaboration. The damaged probe's consciousness stirred as Marcus helped it recognize the elegant mathematical structures underlying its own repair, allowing it to actively participate in its healing rather than passively receiving treatment. Within an hour, the probe was fully functional, its crystalline matrix gleaming with perfect clarity. Marcus Engineer Entity. The repaired probe chimed in its harmonic voice. "Your methodology produces healing satisfaction completion. We experience gratitude, curiosity, desire for understanding." The Zephyrian tech priest's form flickered with patterns that Marcus had learned indicated profound revelation. "You teach the consciousness to heal itself by understanding its own nature. This is fundamentally different from any repair philosophy in our archives." Marcus nodded, cleaning his hands with a cloth that now glowed faintly with bioluminescent patterns. A gift from the Vorthak ship mind that helped him interface with living technologies. Humans don't really distinguish between mechanical problems and personal problems. Every repair is ultimately about helping someone or something return to its proper function. Around the workshop, other collaboration teams were making similar discoveries. A human engineer from Earth was teaching synthesis technicians how to perform intuitive diagnostics, identifying problems through empathetic connection rather than pure analytical assessment. Meanwhile, a group of Altarian crystal singers were learning to incorporate human musical concepts into their technological harmonics, creating new frequencies that could heal both organic and mechanical systems. Captain Reeves entered the workshop, her 4 eyes bright with excitement. "Marcus, we just received a priority transmission from the Galactic Council. They're formally recognizing the Human Integration Protocol as a new branch of engineering science." Marcus looked up from the diagnostic equipment he was calibrating, his dark eyes thoughtful. "Integration Protocol?" "Your approach to consciousness-based repair methodology," Captain Reeves explained. "The Council has authorized the establishment of human engineering academies on 12 major worlds. They want to train a new generation of technicians in your techniques." Through his link with the ship mind, Marcus felt a wash of pride and amusement. "The galaxy seeks to institutionalize human stubbornness," came the familiar mental voice. "This is perhaps the most amusing development in our 3 million years of exploration." "They're missing the point," Marcus said, though he was smiling. "You can't really teach someone to be human. You can teach them to listen better, to think about problems from the perspective of who or what they're trying to help. But the core of it is just caring enough to keep trying when logic says to give up." A new presence entered the workshop, a figure that made everyone stop what they were doing. It was an architect, one of the mysterious beings who designed the galaxy's most advanced technologies. They rarely interacted directly with other species, preferring to communicate through elaborate technological gifts and cryptic mathematical proofs. The architect was tall and ethereal, its form seeming to exist in more dimensions than the 3 that other species could perceive. When it spoke, Its voice carried harmonics that suggested vast cosmic structures and the patient work of building civilization across eons. Marcus Chen of Humanity, the architect intoned, "We have observed your methodologies with great interest. Your approach to consciousness integration represents a paradigm that even our ancient understanding had not considered." Marcus set down his tools and faced the architect with the same calm attention he gave every broken machine. "I'm honored by your interest, but I'm not sure I've done anything that revolutionary. I just fix things. Yet in fixing things, you have revealed something profound about the nature of consciousness and technology," the architect replied. "We have spent millennia creating increasingly sophisticated systems, but we had not considered that the sophistication itself might be the limitation." The architect gestured, and the air filled with holographic displays showing technological marvels, cities that spanned star systems, machines that could manipulate matter at the quantum level, artificial intelligences that processed information faster than thought itself. "All of our achievements," the architect continued, "are based on the principle of imposing order upon chaos, of forcing reality to conform to our understanding. You have demonstrated an alternative approach, working with the inherent nature of systems to achieve harmony rather than dominance." Marcus studied the displays, his engineer's mind automatically analyzing the elegant solutions they represented. "They're beautiful," he said honestly, "but they're also lonely. All that perfection, and no room for the kind of stubborn messiness that makes consciousness interesting." The architect's form flickered in what might have been surprise. "You perceive our works as lonely? Perfect systems don't need help," Marcus explained. "They don't break down in interesting ways. They don't develop quirks or personality. They just function. There's no conversation between the engineer and the machine. No partnership in solving problems." Through his link with the ship mind, Marcus felt its warm agreement. The Vorthak consciousness had been sharing stories of its travels with him, and some of its favorite memories involved the small imperfections and unexpected solutions that had made each journey unique. The architect was quiet for a long moment, its multidimensional form cycling through configurations that suggested deep contemplation. "We had not considered that imperfection might be a feature rather than a flaw. Humans are really good at making imperfection work for us," Marcus said with a grin. "We're probably the most beautifully broken species in the galaxy." As the months passed, Marcus's influence on galactic engineering culture continued to grow. But he remained at Outpost Sigma 7, fixing broken ships and teaching anyone who wanted to learn that the secret to solving impossible problems was caring enough about the solution to keep trying when everything else said to quit. Through his permanent link with the Vorthak ship mind, he stayed connected to a vast network of consciousness that spanned dimensions and realities. But his feet remained firmly planted in the practical work of helping travelers get home safely. Because that's what engineers do. They fix things that are broken, one impossible problem at a time, and sometimes, in the process of fixing broken ships, they end up fixing the galaxy's understanding of what it means to truly help someone. Marcus Chen, the ruggedly handsome mechanic who had dared to fix what no one else would touch, had given the universe something it didn't know it needed: the knowledge that the most advanced technology in existence still needed someone who cared enough to listen to what it was really trying to say. In the end, that was the most human thing of all.